Ever feel like there's some secret recipe for a life well lived?
Mm.
Well, today we're taking a deep dive into Ikigai, the Japanese secret to a long and happy life, to see if this philosophy holds the key.
Sounds intriguing.
We're going to unpack some really interesting excerpts and see if we can unlock some secrets to a more fulfilling life. You ready to jump in?
Absolutely, let's do it.
Okay, so first things first, let's break down this whole Ikigai thing. It's more than just a trendy buzzword, right?
Right, it's definitely more than a buzzword. It's about finding those things that make you feel truly alive.
Yeah.
It's about pinpointing those activities that spark joy and give you a sense of purpose.
Okay, I'm listening.
And you know that feeling of being completely absorbed in something where time just melts away?
Oh, yeah, for sure.
The book calls that flow, and it's a big part of Ikigai.
Totally. Like when I'm editing audio, I get completely lost in it. Hours just vanish.
Exactly. And the book actually gives a great example of this with a Japanese calligrapher and haiku poet, Mitsuo Ueda. He found his ikigai expressing himself through art, every brushstroke, every carefully crafted 17-syllable poem.
That's beautiful. It makes me think about those Okinawans, those folks over in Japan who seem to have cracked the code on longevity.
Okinawa, a place where people live long and happy lives. The book takes us straight to Ogimi Village, where centenarians are just your average neighbors.
Okay, I'm hooked. What's their secret? Spill the tea.
Well, imagine a community where staying active is second nature, where everyone's connected like family and life is met with a smile.
Sounds idyllic, but is it really that simple?
It's definitely more nuanced than that, but the book highlights this concept of moai, which are these tight-knit social support groups. They're like the bedrock of Okinawan life.
So strong social ties are a big deal.
Absolutely. Having a strong sense of community and connection is crucial.
It makes you think about the power of community and how it impacts our well-being.
It really does. And speaking of important things, we have to circle back to that flow state. Remember, we're not talking about fleeting moments of joy here. It's about finding those activities that consistently challenge you, captivate you, and leave you feeling fulfilled.
All right, it's like finding that sweet spot like when you're reading a book, for example. Too easy and you get bored. Too hard and you're turned off. But find a book that stretches your mind just enough. You're hooked.
Exactly. And there's actually research on this. Owen Schaefer, who the book mentions, identified 7 conditions for achieving flow.
7. Okay, give me the highlights.
Basically, it boils down to knowing what you're doing, knowing how to do it well, and having a clear objective. Oh, and minimizing distractions. It's huge.
Silence those notifications, close those extra tabs. What else can help us tap into that flow state?
Well, the book talks about this Japanese concept of takumi, which basically means artisan.
Okay, I'm intrigued. Tell me more.
Think about it like a sushi chef who has dedicated his life to perfecting his craft. That devotion, that complete immersion is takumi, and it's a perfect example of flow.
So it's about finding that thing you can lose yourself in, that thing that makes you forget about time.
Exactly.
But for those of us who aren't master sushi chefs, what are some tangible things we can do to live longer, happier lives? The book has to offer some guidance on that.
It does. Remember we talked about harahachibu, the whole eat until you're 80% full thing.
Yeah, eat until you're almost full, but not quite. It makes sense.
It's a great example of a small change that can have a big impact. And speaking of those Okinawan centenarians, they had some interesting eating habits.
I was just thinking about them. They weren't all about intense workouts and protein shakes, were they?
You'd be surprised. They were all about incorporating gentle movement into their daily lives. Think yoga, tai chi, or even just taking a leisurely stroll. It all adds up.
So it's about finding ways to stay active that you actually enjoy, not punishing your body.
Exactly. And it's not just about physical health. Mental well-being plays a crucial role, too.
That's true. So how do we cultivate that inner peace and strength? Is there a magic formula?
Well, there's no magic potion, but the book delves into some really interesting philosophies for navigating life's ups and downs. It talks about resilience, that ability to bounce back from challenges and even become stronger because of them.
That makes a lot of sense. Resilience is so important. Tell me more about how we can cultivate that. What philosophies does the book explore?
Well, it connects the idea of resilience to practices like Stoicism and Buddhism.
Wow. Stoicism and Buddhism. Those are two very different philosophies. How do they tie into resilience?
Well, Stoicism encourages us to focus on what we can control, to accept the present moment, challenges and all. It's about choosing how we react rather than letting our emotions dictate our actions.
So it's about choosing our battles, focusing on what truly matters, and not sweating the small stuff.
Exactly. And Buddhism in this context, really emphasizes mindfulness and self-awareness as keys to managing negative emotions. It's about understanding ourselves better.
Mindfulness, that seems to be a recurring theme here.
It is, and for good reason. Mindfulness is about observing our thoughts and feelings without judgment. It's about creating some distance between ourselves and those thoughts.
That's easier said than done, right?
It takes practice, but it can be incredibly helpful in breaking free from those destructive thought patterns that hold us back.
I can see that. But how do we actually become more mindful? Is it all about meditation?
Meditation is great, but it's not the only path. It can be as simple as paying attention to your breath, noticing the sensations in your body, or doing something that brings you fully into the present moment.
So even something as simple as gardening or taking a walk can be a mindfulness practice.
Exactly. It's all about finding what works for you and making it a part of your everyday life.
It's about being present in those everyday moments, big or small.
Exactly.
And speaking of being present, I have a feeling we're approaching the end of part 1 of this deep dive.
We are, but don't worry, we'll be back soon with even more insights from IKIGAI, the Japanese secret to a long and happy life.
Welcome back to our deep dive into Ikigai.
It's great to be back.
So last time we were talking about resilience and those awesome philosophies of Stoicism and Buddhism. But then things got even more interesting.
Oh, yeah.
The book talks about this idea of moving beyond resilience. It talks about becoming, get this, anti-fragile.
Anti-fragile. Now, that's a word you don't hear every day.
Right. It sounds kind of intense, doesn't it?
It does, but in a good way. So resilient things, they can handle a tough situation,
Right.
And they come out the other side, maybe a little shaken, but still the same. But anti-fragile things.
They come out even stronger.
Exactly. They don't just withstand the pressure, they actually grow from it.
Okay, now I'm imagining like a superhero who gets more powerful every time they get knocked down.
I love that analogy. And it makes me think of the example the book uses, the mythical Hydra.
The Hydra, like the many-headed serpent.
The one and only. You cut off one head, 2 more grow back. Talk about thriving on adversity.
Okay, that's a pretty intense image. So how do we tap into that inner Hydra? How do we become real-life superheroes?
Well, maybe not superheroes in the literal sense,
Too bad.
but we can definitely become more resilient, more anti-fragile. The book lays out some really practical steps we can take.
Lay it on me.
It starts with building what it calls redundancies into our lives.
Redundancies, like backup systems, spare tires for our lives.
Exactly. It's about diversifying.
Yeah.
So instead of relying on a single source of income, maybe you explore a side hustle that aligns with your passions. Or you make time to learn a new skill. That way, if one thing goes south...
You've got options. Spread the risk.
Exactly. And the book actually gives the example of the Okinawans. A lot of them have their primary occupation, but they also maintain gardens. This does a couple things. It supplements their income, and it also gives them a sense of security.
It's like having a safety net, but for your livelihood.
Right. And it's not just about finances either. You can apply this same principle to your social life, your hobbies, your interests. Don't put all your eggs in one basket. Cultivate a diverse group of friends. Explore different hobbies. Stay curious. Keep learning.
It's about building a well-rounded life that can weather different storms.
Exactly. And you know what else helps us cultivate this anti-fragility?
What's that?
Being strategic with risk. The book talks about thinking of it like an investment portfolio.
Okay, I'm intrigued. Tell me more.
Well, you know how you might have a portion of your investments in low-risk, stable things, but then you might also dedicate a small portion for those high-risk, high-reward ventures.
Yeah, I get it. Balance the safe bets with a little bit of go big or go home.
Exactly. It's about finding what works best for you. Don't shy away from stepping outside your comfort zone, but do it in a way that feels calculated and intentional.
Calculated risk-taking, I like it. Any other anti-fragility nuggets of wisdom to share?
Oh, there's one more big one. The book really stresses the importance of figuring out what makes us fragile and then, well, getting rid of it.
Okay, I'm all ears.
So think about your habits. Are there things you do that drain your energy? What about your relationships? Are there any that feel more draining than nourishing?
It's like spring cleaning for your life. Out with the old, in with the new.
Yes, and that includes your physical space too. Get rid of clutter, donate clothes you never wear, create a space that feels inspiring and energizing.
I could definitely use some of that. It's amazing how much stuff we accumulate that we don't actually need. And it's not just about getting rid of stuff, it's also about making space for the things that light us up.
Exactly. Streamline your life. Make room for those things that bring you joy and that truly align with your ikigai.
This whole concept of anti-fragility is pretty powerful stuff. It really makes you think differently about challenges, doesn't it?
It does. It's about embracing uncertainty and seeing the good that can come from difficult situations. And this focus on resilience actually ties into another beautiful Japanese concept, wabi-sabi.
Wabi-sabi. Oh, okay, you're speaking my language. I love learning about different cultural philosophies.
It's a good one. Wabi-sabi is this beautiful philosophy that finds beauty in imperfection.
Imperfection. That's definitely a different way of looking at things.
Right. It's about appreciating those things that are weathered, incomplete, a little rough around the edges. They have character. They have a story to tell.
They're real.
Exactly. Think about it this way. Imagine a perfectly smooth, factory-made teacup.
Okay, I'm picturing it.
Now imagine a teacup that was made by hand, maybe a little lopsided.
Good character.
Right. And maybe it's even got a little chip on the rim.
It's been loved.
Exactly. Wabi-sabi teaches us to appreciate that kind of beauty, the beauty in the imperfections.
I love that. It's a good reminder that our imperfections are part of what makes us unique, what makes us beautiful. And it makes me think about how much we strive for perfection in our lives, in our work, our relationships, even in ourselves.
It's true. We're constantly bombarded with messages about how we should look, how we should act, what we should achieve. But wabi-sabi invites us to let go of all that, to embrace the perfectly imperfect nature of, well, everything.
It's a good reminder to appreciate things as they are in this moment, which reminds me of another Japanese concept we talked about.
Ichigo ichi.
Yes, this moment exists only now and won't come again. It's about being present, appreciating those fleeting moments that make up our lives.
It is. Those moments, those seemingly ordinary moments, they're what life is all about. Ichigo ichi is a beautiful reminder to savor them.
To appreciate the beauty in the everyday.
Exactly. A quiet cup of coffee in the morning, a walk in nature, a meaningful conversation with a loved one. These are the things that make life rich.
It's about finding the extraordinary in the ordinary.
Beautifully said.
Welcome back to the show. We're wrapping up our deep dive into IKIGAI today.
It's flown by.
I know, right? It feels like we just started. But we've covered so much ground.
We have. From those little villages in Okinawa all the way to some pretty deep Japanese philosophy.
And along the way, we've uncovered so many great tips for living a longer, happier life.
Like little golden nuggets of wisdom.
Exactly. But, before we completely wrap things up, I remember the book had some really practical advice about how to actually weave all these concepts into our everyday lives.
It does. It lays out 10, count them, 10 rules for living an Ikigai-inspired life.
Ooh, 10 rules. I love a good list. Hit me with it.
Okay, rule number 1, and this one's a biggie. Stay active, don't retire.
Don't retire. So it's not about kicking back and relaxing once you reach a certain age.
Not necessarily. It's about finding purpose and staying engaged no matter what stage of life you're in. Keep doing those things you love.
I can get behind that. What's rule number 2?
Rule number 2 is all about slowing down. It simply says, take it slow.
Take it slow. That's good advice for pretty much every aspect of life, isn't it?
Isn't it? Sometimes we get so caught up in rushing from one thing to the next that we forget to actually appreciate the journey.
It's about savoring those little moments, big or small.
Exactly. Okay, ready for rule number 3?
Always.
Don't fill your stomach.
Wait, isn't that basically the same as hara-hachi-bu? Eating until you're 80% full.
It is. But it's such an important concept, they decided to include it as a standalone rule.
It's so true, though. I can't tell you how many times I've eaten way past the point of feeling satisfied, just because the food was right there.
It's a hard habit to break. But being mindful of what we eat can make such a difference.
For sure. Okay, what's next?
Rule number 4 is a good one. It's all about surrounding yourself with good friends.
Amen to that.
Right? Life is just better with friends. They make the good times even better and help us through the tough times.
100%. Okay, give me another rule.
Rule number 5 is kind of fun. Get in shape for your next birthday.
I love that. It's like a little challenge to prioritize your health. And it makes it fun, too.
Exactly. It's not about punishing yourself. It's about celebrating life. Okay, rule number 6 is short, sweet, and straight to the point.
Okay, I'm ready.
Smile.
Smile. I like it. So simple, but so powerful.
Right. A smile can change everything.
What's rule number 7?
Rule number 7 encourages us to reconnect with nature.
There's nothing quite like spending time outdoors. It's like a breath of fresh air for your soul.
It really is. Okay, rule number 8, give thanks.
Gratitude. Another one of those simple but profound practices that can make such a difference. It's about shifting your perspective, focusing on the good.
Exactly. Are you ready for the last 2?
Hit me.
Rule number 9, live in the moment.
Be present. Be here now.
Yes, let go of regrets and worries and just focus on experiencing this moment right here, right now.
Because this moment is all we really have.
Exactly. And that brings us to the final rule, rule number 10.
The grand finale.
It is, and it's a good one. It simply says, follow your ikigai.
Find what lights you up and go for it.
Yes, pursue it with passion, with dedication, with your whole heart.
Because that's what makes life worth living.
Precisely. These 10 rules, they're not meant to be set in stone. They're more like guideposts, Something to keep in mind as we navigate the ups and downs of life.
I love that. They're reminders to live with intention, with purpose, with joy. This deep dive into Ikigai has been amazing. I've learned so much, and I'm feeling really inspired.
Me too. It's been such a pleasure exploring all these ideas with you.
The book is full of such great wisdom, and it's presented in such an approachable way.
It is. It's a great read for anyone who's looking to add a little more joy, purpose, and longevity to their life.
And on that note, we'll wrap it up. Thanks for joining us on this incredible exploration of Ikigai, the Japanese secret to a long and happy life. Until next time.